Thank you, Paritosh. Welcome to the session today.
Thank you, Venu, and thank you all the audience who are joining us.
Yeah, so there are already about 7 people who are watching, and more people are going to join since it is live in the Facebook now. So, welcome leaders and entrepreneurs to the Bold Talk Season 2. It starts in a very beautiful and blissful way, I can say that, because today what we require is not just ideation, not just the jnana, not just a lot of strategies, but what we require is somebody who helps us to connect to ourselves, somebody who helps us to bring our best self, somebody who can heal us, somebody who can remove our doubts, somebody who can really take us out of the dilemma, somebody who can really gives the clarity of thought. So I was actually waiting for Paritosh's consent to be the guest. Then only I thought the day he gives me the time, the day I will start the season 2. And thank you so much, Paritosh, for accepting to be a guest in the Bolta. And I feel the people who are watching live are blessed people, and they will not be the same at the end of the talk, because you will find some great insight which will put you as one piece again. Because once our body, mind, and heart and soul is not aligned, we are of different pieces. Once everything is aligned, and our energies will become one, and that's where your personal power is. And we can see today a truly an authentic and natural healer in our bold talk today. So welcome leaders and entrepreneurs, because nobody is an exception. All are inclusive, because each one of us have taken responsibility for ourselves and our family and our organizations, maybe at large. If you have a purpose, you have taken responsibility to the society at large. So I consider each one of you are watching is as a leader and an entrepreneur. So today, live talk with Paritosh Sharan. He is a life and executive coach on heart and mind of an entrepreneur. So it's a beautiful topic today. And Paritosh Sharan is a founder and CEO of TransHuman Consulting, leadership and startup coach, behavioral analyst, counselor, and a transformational speaker. And for further details, you can visit his website transhumanconsulting.com. And to know more about Paritosh, he is a life and executive coach of Marshall Goldsmith Stakeholder Centered Coaching, an OD consultant, which is organizational development consultant, leadership and startup coach and mentor, a behavioral analyst, counselor, and a transformational speaker. He is also the founder and CEO of TransHuman Consulting, a mechanical engineer by education, comes with more than 23 years of rich corporate experience, and is exactly like the monk who sold his Ferrari. So, but now he's on the path to a monk who bought his Ferrari back. He's a certified PI analyst, a hypnotherapist, Pranic Healer and Psychotherapist, and a landmark graduate Ontology, which is not an easy journey. He draws his insights from his years of research and practices in the field of yoga, Neuro Sciences, quantum healing modalities, and human process work. And I think this explanation about him is not enough. More than anything else, he's a great human being, and he comes forward in helping people, especially in healing people. And I have been our relationship is, I think, more than 6 7 years. I forgot how we have met, but kind of relationship we have is really amazing. I have done his NLP program too, and one of the programs still I remember, and I have given to many people, is called Timeline Neuro Linguistic Programming, which has really impacted me, and which also impacted when I have done this particular timeline session. And I have listened to many NLP speakers, but I could not experience what I have gone through with Paritosh program. So with B Club and bold events, our only aim is be bold, stay bold, play bold, and go bold. So thank you, Paritosh Sharan. It's all over to you. And please
So,
share with
so,
us the heart and mind of an entrepreneur. Yes, Paritosh. So
so Venu, I think I could see in this some of my friends who are there. They are great entrepreneurs themselves, right? So I probably they would explain more about the entrepreneurial journey. But this particular topic fascinates me because I have seen many entrepreneurs going through their own entrepreneur journey, and I have personally gone through mine. In fact, just to introduce myself a little bit more, so I'm basically a mechanical engineer. So 7 years I was in the plant operation and maintenance in Tata Steel running power plant. The next 7 years I was in the IT and ITS consulting. Next 7 years I was in the alliance and partnership. And last 7 years or 6 years, I would say I'm in the field of humanities. So I have changed hats many a times, and it has not come very easy, but it has been extremely fulfilling. So sometimes people ask about the entrepreneurial journey itself. What is an entrepreneur? So I usually think that we should not define this, because for me, entrepreneurial journey is a life journey. And the way I am looking at entrepreneurial journey is not about the business. The way I define it is basically it's a journey in which you explore yourself, and it's a journey from where we are today, then to get into the self-actualization, and then moving towards the self-realization. And sometimes we are caught in this journey, because what happens is when we are moving from what we are today and then what we want to become, realize our own potential, by the time we reach there we find something else to move on, and it becomes like a continuous journey. So the true entrepreneurial journey is the journey, it's never the destination. So while I had the opportunity of coaching some of the entrepreneurs, look at my own personal life, I have seen one particular aspect which has really um, stood out, and I would say the entrepreneurial journey of those people who are living life meaningful and living a life which they want to live. So it's not about how big corporate or entity they build in the process. It's about what kind of life they lead and how fulfilled they are. The whole journey sometimes is defined by a parameter called success, but I think the entrepreneurial journey itself is a success. Those who are truly onto this, I consider them itself success, not the destination. So from that point of view, I look at this subject, the heart and mind of an entrepreneur. So when I look at this, I look at some of the experience. If I look at, say, 1,000 entrepreneurial startups or initiative, if you really look at, and some of the people out here, they might agree with me, or they may have some data here and there, but I find that 95% to even more doesn't see, end of the day, they don't sustain beyond 3 years or beyond 5 years. If I really look at what is the major difference, then I have to go back to their resilience level as to what happened in between. Was it really about the idea? Was it really about the business? Was it really about the money? So I thought that is the heart and mind of an entrepreneur, which is the difference, which makes the difference between an entrepreneur and uh, I would call a successful entrepreneur. So I thought of dwelling a little bit on this, because when I get into even the coaching aspect of the entrepreneurs, never that I found the issue is actually about the business or the plan or the product or something of those tangible sorts. I really found out how they could sustain themselves as a human being. And I think all of you have come across many such entrepreneurial journey. Each of them are just a hero in their own life. And I'm talking about those entrepreneurs who are really living a life which they wanted to live. My definitions could be a little different from the so-called the success entrepreneurs in terms of what big corporates they make it. So in this aspect, I thought we will talk more about the attitude part of it. So I was looking at one of the question which came to me, that what is at the core, at the source of an entrepreneurial journey. So when I was thinking about myself, how did my journey started, and then I started looking at how people started their entrepreneurial journey, I will largely categorize them in two. There are one set of people who started their journey because something happened in their life and they reacted to it. They reacted and then went on to create something much bigger. I have no idea while they reacted or responded, whatever word you may call it, whether they are fulfilled or not. And there are some people, the second category, are the people who got into this entrepreneurial journey because it was their self-expression in life, and they thought this is what we want to do in life, and this is what life I want to live. So when I look at these two categories, I mean, none of them are right and wrong or good or bad in my view. But I would like to rather explore that what happened, what is really at the source of it. So when I started, investigating into this, so then psychology, there are many ways we define the whole idea of myself, that self that we talk about. So when we talk about the self, so let me take a few minutes and explain this part, what we really mean by the self. When I'm talking about the self, obviously, I do not know how do I define this self actually. So what I would know is I will have a concept of this self about me, right? And this, I call it self-concept. Now, the self-concept that I have about me is actually at the source of every initiative, everything that I do, everything which drives me, everything that I go about or create something in life. All our relationships are also given by this. So when I look at this, then I said, let me explain and let me understand this whole self-concept, which is not monolithic. So I use these three parts of this self. And let's look at it. Probably, some of you will be able to connect with each part separately and start decoding it and see whether it relates to your own journey. And so there are three concepts that I'm going to talk about regarding self-concept. The number one about the self-concept is self-image. Let's look at it as a three part of the self-concept. The first one is the self-image. So what is self-image that we talk about? So, there are some facts that I know about myself. What I know about myself is that my name is Paritosh Sharan, and I'm 50 years old, and I'm a mechanical engineer by education. I'm now an executive coach. These are some of the facts that I know, and like that, many other facts are there about my life. But the fact is that when we are looking at these facts, if I ask somebody else about their facts, they will tell something else. They may say the similar kind of details, or they may give you some other details. The question here is that what facts they are actually looking at. So I would call it, whatever facts you are looking at is your self-image. And mind it, this is something to do with the facts which you know about yourself. Then comes the second part, the self-esteem. Now, this self-esteem is something, I know some facts about me, but how do I feel about this? And that's self-esteem. If I say that I'm 50 years old, I may feel good about it, that I have 50 years of experience now, I have this much of wisdom now. I may feel good about it. But at the same time, other person may, now I'm 50 years old. Now 50 years are gone, and I may start feeling bad about it. So the self-esteem can go down. Somebody can take pride in this, that I'm a mechanical engineer, I'm a very versatile engineer, but some people may connect, why the hell I did the engineering? It's no more required. They may feel bad about it. So now, what you feel about the facts that you look at, that is an idea of the self-esteem. Then it is very contextual. Some of you, you are my friends, when I go and meet, my self-esteem goes up. But there are environments where I walk in, my self-esteem goes down because of the stimulus from outside. This is self-esteem. Now, the third part is called self-ideal. What is this self-ideal? So each one of us have an idea about the self, and because of many reasons, we may have an ideal that this is what I would like to be, and that is self-ideal. How does it get formed? Who decides what my self-ideal is? It's our environment. It's our upbringing. It's our past experiences. If somebody has, kind of humiliated you for some reason way back, which created a very small image of yourself, you started feeling bad about it. Your self-esteem went down. At the same time, your self-ideal also went down and it became smaller. There are some children, you will see that in the very early ages, they faced some challenges in life. They could react either to go down, or they can react to really prove themselves something. Now, in that case also, you will see the self-image will vary. So look at these three concepts: self-ideal, self-esteem, and ideal. So self-image, self-esteem, and self-ideal, all of these three things are at the core that you know about self. And I find that if you look at these three and the dynamics within these self concepts give rise to phenomenon which is happening outside, and that's how people react to the world, and they get on to do many things in life. So when I started, reading the journeys of many entrepreneurs, why they do certain things that they do, you know, why I do what I do today, how come I have become what I have become, I always find that this is at the source of it. Now, when I start looking at this aspect, and obviously it happened to me that when I started coaching many of the entrepreneurs and the leaders in businesses, and I'm talking about the entrepreneurial as a mindset. Okay, so when I started looking at that, actually I had to really go down and deal there, then dealing on the business plan. Obviously, I was not there to coach on the business plan and the ideas. I realized that many of the building blocks of this self concept, which includes our values, belief systems, and many other things, they become core part of it. And I have seen that all the accumulations that we have around is happening around this. And I'll give you a few examples of it. One of my friend, he created a business plan. He was into trading, and then what he did was he approached me also that, Paritosh, I know that you are going through your journey, and I can give you a great proposition where you can put in whatever money you have, and you will grow by 30 to 40%. So now I was kind of an investor for him in this initiative. So what did he actually selling to him? He was selling to me the idea that if I put 100 rupees, it will become 130. Now, if you go like this in the market, there are some people who might be interested in investing, but there are some people, they will not get interested by merely the returns. They might ask you for what cause, for what is that you are building, what value that you are bringing to the world. They might like to invest there rather than just for the return. Why I'm making this distinction is that for one of my friend, the money was a big value. So what happened was, when he went on to create, he started having partners, he started attracting investors, and with that, accordingly, he started attracting even employees. And when down the line, there was some issues, every businesses have issues. If organization gets into a kind of a trouble, what is that you want first? What investor is looking for? He's looking for his money back. Even the partners want their money back. And what happened? The entire whole idea sank through. So this is one very important aspect, that whatever our building block, if you are not being aware, subconsciously, and I would like to underline this word called subconsciously. Subconsciously, we start attracting our ecosystem. And I think some of the people who are here and looking at from the OD part of it, we talk about, the organizational DNA. Why we talk about organizational DNA is a vision, mission, values, and those kind of stuff. Because just like as a human body, every cell, we have the DNA. And our body entire develops as like a DNA unfolds. And we get all the organs, our health, everything depends on that. Organizational DNA decides the health of an organization, how it will expand. Because each constituents keep coming and start working together. So we need to look at this aspect, and I see this is nothing to do with the business plan. This is nothing to do with the business strategy. It is something to do with ourselves who are at the center. Look at that, any organization, anywhere in the world, you will find there is a team working, but always there will be one person on whose ideas, on whose values, entire thing is anchored. I've seen many organizations where the founder or the initiator had a kind of a value system. Accordingly, the whole organization, developed. And when the person has gone, the whole thing started slowly dissipating and collapsing. So this is again coming from one very, very important aspect, which I thought I will discuss in this. The other aspect is when we are even looking at the businesses or any initiatives, our own construct inside is something which is going to decide how resilient I am for the journey. So I was mentioning about how does entrepreneurs, I've been seeing this, that there are, all of you might be knowing about this Simon Sinek Golden Circle. So there are three kind of people. You will come across many of the leaders or the entrepreneurs. They might be coming across you and they might be asking you as well, what is there in the market? What is the market scenario? Even now in this COVID time, people are putting a lot of effort in understanding that in this kind of challenging times, what is that which will sell? Where is the market? What is the, where we should focus our, what should be the product? What should be our strategy? People have gone into this. So they are actually investigating one question, which is what and where. And if you meet them, after 6 months, chances are they are toying around with some other ideas. Meet them after 2 years, they are toying around with some other ideas. And this kind of thing will happen. I'm not saying that this term I'm using is serial entrepreneurs. There are many serial entrepreneurs I've seen that are very successful. But there are some serial entrepreneurs because they couldn't hold on to one, so they went on to create the second one, and then the third one, and the fourth one. And they kept on doing things till they, finally settled with something. So I'm not saying this journey is right or wrong, because we need to explore our life. Sometimes we explore through many initiatives, keep learning from one initiative and put back those learning in the next initiative. That's another way. And that's another way of evolving. But I'm saying only one thing here, that end of the day, if we have to sustain something, then it's worth exploring our own why. Because I was mentioning that what and where, there are a lot of people there. Some of the people will only survive in that game because probably they would know to do things better than many. Probably they have figured out how to do things better than the others. So there are what people and there are how people. and they are sustaining in this market, but very often they are disrupted, and they are disrupted by the third set of people. I call them why people. They are the people, they are not looking for market. They are looking for why. They are looking for a reason for their own existence. They are looking for why should I exist? Why I have come here? Why I should do what I'm doing? So they are asking one very fundamental question. I call it why of their life. And what happens is, every one of us know that entrepreneurial journey is an adventure. It's not easy. People say, and I don't want to generalize it, because it is easy or difficult. It is for only those people who are sitting outside the fence. Ask a real entrepreneur. They are not dealing with easy and difficult. They are taking everything in their stride, but they are able to sustain this up and down and very, very difficult times. The reason is they are connected with their why, which gives them much, much bigger reward and motivation to continue with this journey than looking at the pains and pleasures of this up and down. So from where that resilience comes, it again comes from the self-concept that they have about themselves. So there are two ways, I mean, we can discover this part. As default, we go on in life, keep doing whatever. Anyway, life is a great teacher, and it teaches us many concepts in life. Life is always moving towards good, no matter what pain and pleasure we go through. But there is another way, and that way is, can I discover myself? Shall I know myself? There are many people who are coming to us only after something they faced, which they are unable to go through, cross through. That time we look into the self-concept they have. We go much deeper, because I have seen many people have gone ahead and created big organizations and initiatives as a matter of reaction, not that something they had thought of, planned, and then they have gone. Only when they have gone to some extent they realize, I don't know why I'm not feeling happy or fulfilled. They are not even looking for happiness, let me tell you. Happiness is a very relative term. If temperature goes up right now, I'll not be happy. If temperature comes down, I'll be happy. Like that, happiness is a very relative. It's very normative. Depends on the norms. But bliss is way beyond. And the bliss is also not the destination. If you know your why and the purpose, if I know my why and my purpose today, then what will happen? I know that I'm moving in the right direction. I don't need any other validation. So I'm immune to outside. So entrepreneurs, I would say the true entrepreneurs, they may take ideas. They may get many ideas and many concepts, many things from outside. But they are obviously driven by what they want to do in their own life, because that could be very unique. They are not afraid of walking alone this life, or walking a path which is a lonely path, because every one of us have different ideas about the world, and every one of us have different why to live. It is for bulk to investigate that, because I did my engineering because my neighbor told me. I got into my life because others told me, my family told me, my friends told me. There are so many influences I have. Coming from middle class family, we have a tendency to survive. And that tendency to survive has built so much of a thing in the past that I am unable to go beyond that limit and find out what's really for me. But I think all of you would know something called midlife crisis. Midlife crisis comes not to everyone. midlife crises are coming only to those people who are who have achieved at least something basic what they wanted in their life. There are people who are till the end of their life they continue to play this survival game. They do not have the time to think about. But what happens to those people? They created an idea about themselves. So once I have this kind of job, then I have my house, my wife, my children, and they accomplish this thing, then I will be fulfilled. But when they reach there, they found their fulfillment was absolutely missing. And that time they start searching that, okay, what's missing in my life? And ultimately, they find out that maybe it is not aligned, but they also come to know only when they investigate about it. Once they are aligned, then the question is, there is a lot of accumulations has already happened in terms of their limitations, in terms of the resources, in terms of the family, in terms of the structures they have created. It becomes very difficult for them to break free and really get into this. Now, this is again a concept coming from self-ideal and self-image. So those who are able to understand this, they are able to come out of it. Otherwise, they continue to get in the cocoon of this self-concept they have. So this is what I wanted to share just in the beginning of this heart and mind of entrepreneur Venu, to just create a base. This is what I'm here, and let me hear some questions if it's coming, then I could further
Yes,
explain.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paritosh. It is wonderful in defining what the journey of an entrepreneur and how to bounce back and the path less travel and the self concept. So and the organization DNA. There are so many things and so many insights you have given in this brief. So we have stalwarts in within our Zoom group here. So we also request them to type some questions so that it is useful for the audience who are watching live in Facebook. So I have a first question, Paritosh.
Yeah.
Now everyone knows that it is a business owner or an entrepreneur is going through a tough time, because an employee going through a tough time is difficult to him for his family,
Yeah.
whereas for an entrepreneur there are many lives are dependent on him. So he is the last one to take the salary, and maybe the first one to take any challenge comes to his business. I have not only big businessmen. There are many. Today I spoke to one of the ad agency owner. That
Hmm.
gentleman about 10 people staff. But
Yeah.
when he called me, he just asked me what is the future in store for us. We are thriving in our business. Suddenly, this COVID has come, and it
Yeah.
has impacted some businesses, and it impacted us. I asked one question, and have you paid the salaries? He said, last three out of 3 months, 2 months I paid full, and last month I paid 60%. I said, hats off to you. And have you taken salary? He said, no, none of our partners have taken it. We have first given it to the people who need it most. And I really felt like helping these people because their intentions are great. An entrepreneur thinking is always how to keep my team, my people who are with me. First, they see that they had their meal. I think this is the
Hmm.
greatness of the mindsets leaders and entrepreneurs have. I really feel that if I can't help, maybe I can bring people like you and see that each one of you, they will get one insight, and they'll gain back their power, personal power, and again thrive in life. Not just survive, but thrive. So I just want to ask the question that what are the ways and what are the qualities required for an entrepreneur to overcome the present crisis? Yes.
See, there is one. I recall one incident way back in 2009. I was traveling from Bangalore to Hyderabad, and then there was a gentleman the very next seat in my flight, and he was reading this Economic Times, and there was a news coming that uh, that maybe the Tech Mahindra is firing some 20,000 people, uh, that after the acquisition. So he was just we just got connected, and he was saying it is going to be Mahim in Hyderabad. Um, because there are 20,000 people will be losing their job. And I was just mentioning is I don't look at it from that point of view, because I was myself I have worked in Satyam, and this time when we had this discussion, I was already part of the Global Alliances team working in Oracle, and I was managing Satyam relationships at that moment of time. So this relationship was put on hold, and then whole acquisitions was going on. I just mentioned one thing to him, that I'm not really looking at that 20,000 people are going to lose job. I'm just going to look at now at least 5 to 6,000 of them will become entrepreneurs. And trust me, Venu, I have seen many of my own friends. They have come up with their own organizations. They are running those organizations today, right? I mean, we had a pandemic of many mini organizations which started during that period. So while we look at all of these at one side, that yes, we have challenges, I cannot deny that, because in any such journey, many organizations are getting wiped out. But I would always look at it, these kind of thing can happen to anyone. And these are happening whether you have a team or you are a solo entrepreneur or whatever, it is happening. But I am only looking at how do you really or truly reinvent yourself. I was talking about this, that many a times we go through this kind of a journey. And again, I will take a route which is more from the life journey perspective and philosophy perspective, that each one of us have got something we are very unique. And it is at times pretty shocking that bulk of the humanity never look at it what I'm good at. I'm giving you one statistics. The data, basically, it says that only 3% of the people in this world, I look at the organization, only 3% of the people are responsible for 100% of the results. Means they are the key people. Rest 96-97%, either they're supporting that function or they are pylon, right? So who are those 3%? Who are those 3% people? Those 3% people are those people who are actually excelling. So how they excel? There's only one formula. If you find something which you are good at, means something you think you like, number one, you should like it, and you know yourself that it is good for me. If you have found anything like that, you will suddenly start excelling. And you will have, I would call it, that's a very magical kind of a manifestation starts happening. But the challenge is that we all know what's good for me, but may not like it. Or there are many things we like it, but it may not be good for me. That also we know. In fact, I'm just asking people to start looking at one thing: passion. Many of the entrepreneurs I have seen talking about that, I'm very passionate about it, right? And I have nothing wrong with the passion. Yes, people should have the passion. But you have to understand that not all the passion can become an entrepreneurial initiative, because passion keep on changing. I've seen people changing their passion every 3-5 years, right? When you have passion, you can go for some distance. You have passion, you will cross the limitation of passion, you will go beyond. But if you have the purpose, you will shake the world to make it happen. So I'm here not talking about what could be the business strategy, but it is something like each individual need to really look at it, that if you are truly, truly connected with the purpose, you will find your means. I don't have that answer for anyone that what they would need and what they would do. But it's a good time also to connect with your purpose. Passion keep changing. I had a passion in photography, almost like I could have set up my own studio, and I have my lights and other many things I had, because some 10 years back I was about to get into this venture. But now I don't have that passion. The moment I got into this, the purpose part of it, I've gone through a lot of difficulties. At a time after 23 years of my working, I had challenges. Also, sometime whether I'll be able to pay my EMI or not. I've gone to that extent. Even extent to madness we go through in the entrepreneurial journey. But what sustain us is my connect with purpose. And I have found out from the stories of many great entrepreneurs. In fact, when they really started this, they had pennies in their pocket from where they started. So yes, there is a challenge for them right now, but they need to find that here what's really for them, and I'm sure they will be able to, bounce back from there. And when you are working in a team, when you have the 10-member team, or it is for collectively, I think the whole team can explore this, and anybody's ideas can become a great idea, because if you have really the purpose, many things can happen. And I do not have that prescriptive answers, because prescriptions never work. It is the discovery model which I believe in. Discover and you will find out something. Yes, there are ways to discover, and that requires a slightly lengthy discussion, but it can be discovered to find a new ways. But what will be your real inner compass is your purpose. And if your purpose is that strong, I'm sure you will find your means. That's what has happened in the entrepreneurial journey. I hope it answers some bit, if not fully, well,
Yes,
long answer to this question.
yes, Paritosh, because I know that you always go little deep in connecting to the root, not just giving an answer which satisfies people, but actually you takes them to their roots. So that because I think there's a famous quote from Harvika that if you want to change the fruit, you have to change the root. So the actual problem
Yeah.
lies there. So and you also beautifully said that midlife crisis doesn't come to everybody who is living, who is surviving, but somebody who got some success. For him, this question will haunt him. That the
Yes.
search of meaning, not this question. This doesn't come to everybody. Wonderfully said, Paritosh. Thank you so much. And here there are two questions. One is from my friend Naveen, who is also an Ericsson coach and also an edupreneur. So there's a question here that Paritosh, can you clearly distinguish self-image, self-esteem, and self-ideal? And also another question in Facebook page that only spiritual gurus will use this concept called self. How come that is related to an entrepreneur? So there's a question from Ravi in the Facebook page. So I think these two are related to self, and also self-image, self-esteem, and self-ideal. How they are related to an entrepreneur?
Okay, so I think in the beginning we discussed about it. So let me recreate this once more very quickly. I talk about the self-image. So self-image is something with the facts that you look at it. And why I mention this, that typically, what's the attitude towards life? And I would like to mention here that this comes from more from the neuro-linguistic programming. There is a concept called, um, uh, you know, we call it reticular activating system. And you can go and check what it is. This is the most powerful concept, the reticular activating system. What it does is, let me give you in a very short. Reticular activating system is the part of the midbrain which has a great function. What it does is that, consider for even for 1 minute or 2 minutes or 5 minutes, for some time, you have a very intense desire for something, right? And then you forget about it. And I say, when an intense desire, not the intellectual desire only, there are a lot of emotions also involved. Because when there is emotions involved, so the biochemistry changes, the neural patterns get formed. And if you keep asking that question and a desire for some time, then subconscious mind will start looking for those answers. And I can tell you that many of this law of attraction, and people talk about this visualization and visualizing with a lot of emotions, and they say that manifestation it starts happening. It is actually true that manifestation happen? How we never know. None of us know. So what is happening is self-ideal is the facts that you look at. But my question here is that there are a lot of people, they are looking at what they have, and there are people, they look at those facts which they don't have. And that makes hell of a difference. That there are some people, they know what they have, and there are some people, they see what they don't have. That's how the now what self-image you have, start looking at what I'm looking at within me, what I have. Are you only looking at what you don't have, or are you looking at what you have? What you have is your resource. But if you think that my journey will begin because once I have this, then only my journey will begin, they have never started. So that's why self-image is very, very important. Coming to self-esteem, self-esteem is nothing but how do you feel about your self-image. If you feel great about it, your self-esteem is high. If you think bad about yourself, looking at yourself image or the facts that you know about yourself, your self-esteem will be low. Now, you should know that self-esteem is connected to the emotions. And world over, this is a scientifically proven fact that the movement and the actions that you take, it's only because of the emotions. Many of us have great ideas, but we don't act. We procrastinate. Why we procrastinate? Because we don't have the right emotions. We intellectually, we know so many things, but your body will not move because there is no biochemistry for that movement. So self-esteem is so important to understand. How do you create that emotions which creates that energy in you so that you start moving, you start taking actions. Now, so this is self-esteem. Third is the self-ideal. What is self-ideal? In which direction you will move? What image you want to create for yourself in future? If your ideal for life is also very small or compromised or dented, you are going to take some baby steps and be satisfied with it. But if you have the self-ideal which is pretty big, then your actions will be also according to that. So I hope now it's clear. The self concept, I'm just bringing in three concepts: self-image, self-esteem, and self-ideal. These are the three things which will help you discover yourself. Now, this is not philosophy, by the way. I would say that many of these spiritual gurus, they have become very good at neurosciences these days. Or they have been always been talking about the neurosciences. It's now only that people have started connecting with it. And when it comes to philosophies, and many people say, okay, this is a philosophy, this is not practical. Let me tell you, without philosophy, nobody can stand in this life. You need to have some philosophies. And if the philosophy, once you experience, it becomes your wisdom. If you have not experienced it, it is philosophy for you. So I would suggest there has to be one philosophy, and having no philosophy is also one philosophy. And it is really nothing to do with the spiritual guru. And I can give you one thing. The spiritual gurus, we should not look at them from the positive and negative. I can tell you, they are also great entrepreneurs. And I'm saying in very positive sense. Because anybody can become, if they can influence so many lives, they have their own personal power. Right? So they are not talking of philosophies. If you and me go and listen to them, they are not talking about philosophy. If you are getting impacted by them, we are not talking of philosophies. So I would suggest, when I right now talked about the self-image, start looking at that the law of universe is whatever you focus on increases. That's it. If you focus on what you don't have, that will only increase. That's why people say have gratitude. Have gratitude for what you have so that it starts expanding. And this is not a philosophy. This is the truth. Even the quantum physics is saying the same thing today, that whatever you focus on will increase. So self-image is very important. What is that you are looking at? I can also look at, I'm 50 years old, how can I start my journey? How can I now leave everything and I start becoming an entrepreneur? You will have enough cases. People have started at 60 and 70. They want to create something. They found out what they are born for, why they came on the planet. They uh, they have found their purpose. It's sometimes in the millennial crowd and sometimes in the very younger crowd. If you ask them this question, what is the purpose of your life? Maybe they will not be interested at this time, right? But my question is that if you're having a vision and purpose, if it is philosophy, I think then organization corporates are not spiritual organizations. Why they are thinking about vision and mission and values? They know somewhere that without that, they will not get the direction to move. So I would say that knowing yourself is just like knowing an organization DNA. Know your own DNA, because that's what it helps you. And how do I harness my energies? Harnessing this energy means understanding self and having a coherency between my conscious mind and the subconscious mind. If these two come together, we become powerhouse. But if my conscious mind says something else and I am subconsciously oriented somewhere else, our efforts will never fetch us the result that we know. I hope this answers both the questions.
Yes, Paritosh, and especially RAS, the Radicular Activity System, and also you talked about the gratitude, and the law is whatever you focus that will expand, and so it is always to be grateful, so that that's where your RAS starts working with more abundance, and wonderfully explained. Paritosh, I'm happy that in Facebook, a lot of leaders also watching, including Renu Khanna. So, one of the leaders, I think.
Oh my, she's my guru too.
Yes,
So happy to. I can't see her. I'm on Zoom, but my regards to her.
yes. So nice. I think GR has a question to ask, and GR, can you please go ahead?
Yeah, hi, Paritosh. So, what my question is, as an entrepreneur, you're always very busy, and you're always thinking about what to do next in the future, right? Because it's
Right.
a survival on a day-to-day basis. So, I wanted to know, in terms of knowing self, how much conscious that one should be while they are actually working on a purpose with a passion. What are the things that they need to do practically, just to be, before it goes into a subconscious state. You just said in the earlier state that you're thinking something else, but you're actually doing something else, right? So I'm actually really wanting to know if there are any trade secrets, or maybe the practical advices that the entrepreneurs must know about self in a day-to-day life,
Right.
while they're actually working towards the purpose with a passion.
Okay. And Jia, this is a great question. Thanks for bringing. I think this will create that link between philosophy and the practices, I would say. See, if you really look at what are the building blocks of a self concept. So I would say that, it is said that 0 to 7 is called the imprinting period, where most of our value systems, belief systems, and everything get formed. But at the same time, many of our hardwiring also happens there itself. Now, if we are not aware of those hardwirings, then we are operating from there subconsciously. And I have many examples to give there, and I'll pick one or two examples. So, in my understanding, what I say that knowing yourself means knowing what? Knowing yourself means becoming aware about our own building blocks. I give one example here. Many of the entrepreneurs or ventures or leaders, they might be operating something called likings and dislikings, right? Because I like this, so I would like to go with it. I dislike, so it's not my way, right? But nobody is even exploring, how did I get to like something and how did I get to dislike something? There people don't have any control. And if you become aware about something, you will have a freedom actually. It's not, your liking will not decide, you will decide your liking. Right. Many times when you're talking about this word, you mentioned about the passion. This passion, we should investigate from where this passion is coming. What could be the reason for the passion? There are some people, I'm giving an example, very commonly I hear that, mathematics is my most favorite subject. Oh, my child likes, he's great in English. I have seen that the child, English became a great or most favorite subject, not because the child like English, because child has a favorite teacher who was teaching English. Okay. So now you have gone to one level of understanding. Then look at why one particular teacher become favorite, right? Then you will find the child was very auditory and teacher was also very auditory. And obviously this mismatch happened, you start learning much faster. But what if the child is visual and teacher is auditory? It will never become the favorite subject for them, right? But in our entire life, we'll be carried away by many decisions that we'll be taking. It will be only based on this. When do I have the freedom from this tea or coffee? I can have tea, I can have coffee, or I have both, I can have nothing. Then I will say I'm free. But I can move in this world that I'm a tea person, I like tea and that's it, right? Like that, many of the values that we carry, right? Those values are something from which we operate. But people do not know that we may be operating in different roles from different values. And that conflict is within, forget about outside. For example, we may have a family, and for my children, there are a different set of rules and standards, and there are other children, and for them, I have a different set of rules. Now, we are one person living in two different roles, we are living two different values. And what happens is, when I come back home, I can't sleep because class of the actions that I took, I know that there is division within me. So what happens is, when we start investigating these internal blocks, I'm saying investigating and becoming aware about it, then there is a coherency. Once that coherency comes, amazing amount of clarity comes about the self and the self actions, or the once we know about the self, plus we learn to go beyond our values, our what you call virtues and vices. One of the I just wanted to bring that context. One of the discussion happened in which it was said that why Indian managers are taking very central or the senior positions world over. Why suddenly there is a many of the Google and Microsoft and many other organizations. In fact, the Indian managers are very sought after now. Why this is happening? Probably there are two reasons to it. Probably because we have a DNA which is we are coming from the Eastern philosophy which is there in our DNA. So there is a faith system we have. Our education is in the the logical way. So we have logical thinking as well as faith system. But what happens when you come to a leadership position? You as a person is taking that organization to a place where nobody has gone, right? If you have to follow some norms, you know where to go and what to do, That means you are playing within the established norms of the market. But true leaders are taking the organization or initiative to a level where nobody has gone. There is no data available, or data is available very partially. So you have to work from the gut level. Means you need to have faith. So probably what we have is a proper balance of faith and what you call logic in the same mind. We can keep an Indian, I would say Indian means not the geopolitical Indian, but I'm talking about the philosophies. So we have this. If you look at this particular phenomenon, you will see that we are actually transcending the definition called virtues and vices, but we are learning to operate from the context. So one of the great qualities about the leadership is to lead in the ambiguous scenario where there's no clarity. And you cannot operate from your values, but what you can do, you can look at the context, and from there you can operate.
So, Paritosh,
Yeah.
I think that's where the dilemma is.
Yeah.
We actually work in ambiguity all the time.
Right.
There is a whole lot of challenge, for people to be, conscious in terms of, applying. Okay. So does it mean that the entrepreneurs really need to make them more conscious about how they're dealing with, so that it gets back into their subconscious state eventually? Or how do they really,
Brilliant. I think you
impact?
answered, GR, you answered this question. See, what happens is when we get into this training and initiatives, and I'm very careful about it. I do not get into this prescriptive model of leadership development. I guard away from this. I always move away from this. I say that when, as a leader, when you are in any situation, right, that situation could be very unique. And if I give you a prescription that this situation and this is how you should operate, it will be very difficult, because every time, particularly entrepreneurs, will always have a new situation to handle. So what is required, you mentioned already, becoming aware about yourself will shift your way of being. And inside of the being, only your doing will emerge. Right? So I always see that awareness is amazing. If we are just becoming aware, that's why there is so much of people talking about that conscious and mindful leadership is what is the need of the hour. And more businesses and the situations are becoming complex. That's what we are looking at. We need to become very conscious. Conscious about what? That question again comes. And how do I become conscious about anything else? I think here I would take any spiritual guru's statement as well as true. If you know yourself, you becoming aware, you start becoming aware about others too. And it's through your own awareness that you can look at somebody else and you become more aware about any other situation. So it's a journey which is inside out. And probably I'm glad that you asked this question, because that's where the whole idea of conscious leadership or mindfulness is coming in, that we become mindful about who we are.
Thank you, Paritosh. Thank you, GR, for asking great questions and making it more interesting. I know that Paritosh always brings that the internal story, the inner story built, because I think nobody, most of us have never heard that investigate your passion, because passions are short-lived. Why it is so? Why we like the teacher? Because it is because of auditory matching, and so I think he goes to such a depth in investigating whether it's really our passion, fashion, vision, mission, obsession, or absolute passion, which is actually comes from the context of ourself. So wonderfully explained, Paritosh, and also said that some philosophy is needed, because I always believe philosophers, I think the word, so philosophers are born out of suffering, and if you listen to the philosopher, and your suffering will go. Otherwise, you will experience also the suffering, and you will become philosophers. And
Yes.
thank you, because we all have gone through that phase. Because especially you have shared your story that how stressful the corporate life was for you, and one day you have taken a call, and that you don't know how to go ahead also, but you have deep within you have taken a call and taken a journey less traveled, and today you have become such a healer, such a coach. You are empowering even political parties of a state, so and influencing the ministers and the leaders, and wonderful, Paritosh. And I think this definitely wouldn't have happened, because I know that you are not a man who impacts directly the masses, but you are a man who can impact the leaders, who can impact others. So it's not for everybody. It's not that easy to get to understand you, because you are not a kind of a motivational speaker or a pep kind of a speaker, but a lot of insights are there in every of your word. Thank you. There are some questions in the Facebook.
Thanks.
Thank you, Paritosh. There are some questions in the Facebook. How is the career of NLP? Because NLP was way a decade ago in India. Is it still useful as a career or add on? That's one question. And there's another question from Mr. Gopi, that because of this COVID, whether corporates need demand of motivational speakers is a slump or surge, or it is as it is. What is the career of a motivational speaker? That is another question. So after that, we have one more question, but after this,
Okay.
yeah.
Right. So when it comes to NLP, I would see now NLP is expanded. I would say now you might have heard about neuro-based leadership programs, neuro leadership programs, then brain-based. There are many other programs. Even spiritual gurus are now talking about and these concepts. Um, Let me explain this. The NLP or neuro linguistic programming, it's basically a misnomer. It's something which is like there are many aspects coming from different bodies of knowledge that have been put together, and it is being taught at one place, and which is called NLP, neuro linguistic programming. Basically, it talks about how do we create patterns in our mind and head, and how do we execute without knowing, and how do we know this. So if I know how I have become what I have become, then chances are I know how to become what I want to become. So that's the promise of this subject. Now this subject has gone into all areas, right? Whether you call it healing, whether it is call it coaching, whether it is calling leadership development, there's no aspect of it which is left, right? So whether you call it NLP or go and attend some other program with a similar kind of name of the body of knowledge, this can become a great tool for anyone for that, including the housewives, including the person who is doing a small business, or even the CEOs, or it is for everyone to know. I have attended at least 2 or 3 coaching certifications that I took on. And at least 1 or 2 of this, I've seen that around 40% subject is NLP. Even the presuppositions are taken from there, right? So it's a great tool for anyone and everyone. Its application is unlimited, because it is nothing to do with some what do you call unrelated kind of an experiences. It actually explains. Sometimes we call it the manual, our own manual. When you buy a car, you get a manual along with it. You buy an equipment, you get a manual. So NLP is something, a manual, that how does this whole thing functions, and your behavior creates the outcome. So if you understand it better, probably you'll be in a better control of this equipment. And I could tell you that many of the esoteric subjects also, I could understand, decode, where this subject actually helped me. One of the very, very interesting subject about it, which is my very favorite, is the power of language. Because if you understand this language, and he said that language creates everything. Your thinking also happens through the language. Your intentions also, in somewhere there is some language. When you speak something, there is some language. If you can transform this language, you can actually transform the life experiences and life outcomes. So it is a very, very powerful subject, and it's up to you to what depth you want to take it. It's just the beginning. NLP is just the beginning.
Thank you, Paritosh. And also, I think motivational speaker is not a matter of question, but of course, organizations do not need any motivation today, according to me, because the CEOs, the owners, everybody became motivational speaker, from a spiritual guru to prime minister. Who is not a motivational speaker today? So when
I'll give you one example to you. When this is a very famous story, the General Motors, when this company was about to be shut down because they couldn't take on, right? And finally, they decided that the only way, a General Motor is something where people work for 2, 3 generations, right? So they were in complete fix that until unless they, remove some 30-40% employees, 25% of employees, this company otherwise have to be closed down. So what they did was they called a motivational speaker, okay? And motivational speaker came and he took on this challenge, and he went on to, make people realize that the company they love, obviously, company also loved them. But he just gave them a kind of a thought that if you be in this company or be out of the company, can you just look at what is good for you? Maybe you going out of the company could be good for you as well as for the company. And people took that decision. Some 30 to 40%, I don't remember that, 30 to 40% people, right, after that intervention took voluntary retirement, and GM bounced back. These are history. So this is the time when whether the people who are living in the organization or living out, I think this is a great opportunity for showing them a path that if you're going out of the job, it's not end of it, right? If they live with an empowered mindset, that will do a lot good to that company, also to the society and to the individuals as well. So I think there will be a lot many coaches which will be required. I don't know about the motivational speaker, but yes, there will be a lot of coaching which will be required in future.
Wonderful, so wonderfully put it. It's a great, inspiring story at this hour. In fact, I have done a lot of sessions for many organizations in these COVID times, because the organizations, some companies have taken the salaries out and they made them like a self-employed, like a gig economy, in particularly in sales. So I had to take a session because it's not easy for them to accept it. But I have so really told them, you are actually promoted as an business owner or a self-employed. So ESBI is the path. So, and I have really given a new concept to them, that how they are free to make more money. And I think otherwise, if somebody beautifully said, if motivation doesn't work, whether demotivation will work. And if there is no webinars, if there is no jnana, if there are no spiritual gurus, if there is no motivational gurus, imagine how many people would have got into depression and maybe some tendencies that lead to a disaster. So I think they have
Yes,
done a great job, isn't it, Paritosh? All the
yes, absolutely,
community
absolutely.
speakers, coaches, trainers, and educators, everybody has done a great job. And to their network, they have given whatever they know. I think a phenomenal job being done by this community of human potential developers. So the only thing is how you convert into business. That's a different matter altogether. Definitely, that's possible today in this online. That definitely we will discuss on another topic another day. So we have a question here from Mr. Dasidar. What are all the factors and forces that are going to influence these self-image, self-esteem, and self-ideal of an entrepreneur? So what are the factors and forces? That's what he's asking. And also after this, my friend Mr. Naveen Nandigam will ask a question. With that, we will close today's session. Paritosh, is out.
Okay, so what are the factors which will affect this self-concept? So I think um, we are already programmed for what we are today. We have a self-concept. So we need to investigate about what is the self-image I have, self-esteem, go and see where you stand today. What is a self-ideal? These are the matter of discussion, and it can be found out. That's not a problem. But these are the factors which has already done with you then. But what happens is, you just becoming aware, you will start transcending them. So now there is nothing called a factor, but it's awareness of those building blocks. Look at what is operating you. Ask some great questions to yourself. What is driving you today? What makes you get up in the morning and go to whatever work you do? What is driving you? Even if you have some passion, look at what is driving me today. If you have self-ideal about something, this is what I want to do, then you just check it from where I got this idea. If you think this is the limitation, find out where it got limited. Who and when I got that limitation built. I'll tell you, like for example, coming from a middle class families, most of us have this. There was a conversation, yeah, ye paise ped pe nahi ugte. I mean, money doesn't grow on the tree. That's how I was told. And I have seen the struggle at home, so right? Until today, it haunts me because that's how I've been programmed, right? Just becoming aware, I'm starting to transcend this. Otherwise, I was not aware and always operating from this lack mentality. There are people who had a lot of scarcity in the childhood time. And what happened? Now they're suffering with the scarcity syndrome. Means what? Now they may have 100 crore, but they're still living in that scarcity syndrome. They are now trying for 1,000 crore. If they get 1,000 crore, now they will like for 10,000 crore. And you and me think that even if I get 1% of that, my life will be done, right? But they are still suffering from this scarcity syndrome, which happened as a childhood time. So many of the decisions they took, many of the values they operate from today, actually it's not a decision by a 50-year-old person. I'm still living an 8 or 9 or 10 years old child sitting with those decisions in this 50 years old body. Means I have not investigated. Now I have grown up, right? So I have a choice to look at what decision I took. Can I now recreate it? The moment you recreate it, you will see a different life experience. So that's what, these are not the factors. It's just exploring what's holding you back. Once you know, you start transcending. I hope this answers this question.
Beautiful, Paritosh. I think the journey with you about 4 days, I remember that NLP program in 2017 or 16, so 4 5 years back. I think it's uh, uh, a breakthrough, a kind of an amazing session we have gone through. So thank you for that. I think one has to go through these kind of, not just for, because I never used NLP as a practitioner. So I just did it for myself. And after that, I introduced to our training fraternity, and many of the trainers also attended, and they really appreciated. Thank you so much, Paritosh. So Mr. Naveen, he's a coach in Ericsson, also an edupreneur. So Naveen, please go ahead. Naveen, it's over to you.
Hi, Naveen.
Hi, Paritosh.
Hi, Naveen. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you. Long back, in one of Venu's sessions, you came and took one 1 hour program. I remember long back.
Ah, yes. I think it happened in Begumpet, right?
Yeah, Begumpet.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. I still remember that. Yeah. What I wanted to ask is, do we discover ourselves or do we create ourselves?
Brilliant question. As of that, I know, okay, the process of discovery itself will create you. Because we as a human being has our limitation. I can't create and become an animal, right? So what we are already, we only discover. I don't think my mind doesn't grasp this idea that I can create. Yes, if I discover myself, I will have a very new version of me, which I will start experiencing. If you can call it creation, a new creation. Because what we are today, I hope your idea is that if I'm whatever I am, can I become something else? Yes, we can become something else. The hardware will remain the same, but software can be changed. And many of these, once we become aware, I think we will be able to transcend ourselves. And you need not recreate the whole thing. You are already recreated if you are able to transcend what's making you what you are today. You can become anybody. We have a presupposition in our subject, we call it, if one person can do that, then anyone can do it.
So thank you, Paritosh. I think we had almost a wonderful discussion for 1.5 hours. And there's a question from Mr. Uday also in the Facebook page. But for the sake of time, I'll just put it in a last question for you. That is it the state of mind of an entrepreneur affects his business, or is it the state of organization influences the entrepreneur? Which is more powerful? Which is supposed to be more powerful?
See, it's something like this. Is the entrepreneur who creates the business. Okay. And if a situation is creating you, then you are not entrepreneur. The entrepreneur has the power to create anything. So they are at the center of all creation that happens around you. And this is true not only for the entrepreneur, but also for the humans. We are at the center of all our creations and all our experiences. And there are people where organizations have got killed, but entrepreneurs have not got killed because of that. They created another organizations. So it's always the entrepreneur who is the center. It's just that it may happen that the situation might be that it is within or with, I would say, it's the power of handling the situation may not be available or may not be, you say, realized by that entrepreneur at that moment of time, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't have the power. Entrepreneur is always at the core. Forget about entrepreneur, let's talk about human is always at the center of all the creations and the experiences. This is even our philosophies say.
Thank you, Paritosh. At the end, it is actually the entrepreneur who creates, not the organization. Situation or the status quo of his business is not going to impact an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is going to make his circumstances. He is not
Yes.
going to be victim of the circumstances. Wonderfully put it, Paritosh. So thank you so much, and also the participants here, the great coaches and entrepreneurs are here in the Facebook, and people like Renu Kanna and Uday are watching, and it's really wonderful time, Paritosh. And
Thank
people,
you.
because I just missed it a presentation in the beginning, so I just want to show you that today our guest Sri Paritosh Sharan is a founder and CEO of TransHuman Consulting and leadership and startup coach, behavioral analyst, counselor, and a transformational speaker. And his website is transhumanconsulting.com. And his credentials are extraordinary. And he is a life and executive coach, leadership and startup coach, behavioral analyst, counselor, and speaker, founder and CEO of a organization, mechanical engineer, certified PI analyst, hypnotherapist, pranic healer, psychotherapist, and a landmark graduate. And anybody who knows about landmark, you know that that becoming graduate is a great journey, and he draws his insights from his years of research and practices in the field of yoga, NLP, quantum healing modalities, and human process work. So thank you for being here. Thank you, Paritosh Sharan, for
Thank you.
whole guest in
Thanks.
season 2, and you have really given us the energy much required. Thank you so much for the great insights for the entrepreneur, and we wish you to come back once in a while when this series is going on with another topic for leadership. Thank you so much for being here. Tomorrow we have a guest here, Mr. Sudhir. He is going to be he's a director in MSME, and a lot of people are looking up to you, Paritosh, today. Thanks for
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Venu. It was a great opportunity to interact, and I'm sure, given opportunity, I'll again come back to this.
thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
So Wonderful to have you here. Good night, all. See you, sir. Bye.
Bye.